the landmark judgment in which a 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court by a majority of 6:1 has held that the subclassification of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes is permissible to grant separate quotas for more backward classes within the SC/ST categories. Justice Bela Trivedi is the only judge who dissented in that 6:1 ruling. The Supreme Court, remember, has ruled that scheduled castes are not homogeneous groups and governments can subclassify them to give more weightage in that 15% reservation to those who suffer more discrimination within the scheduled castes as well. The Supreme Court bench has held that the subclassification of SC/STs is permissible, I beg your pardon, in order to provide quotas within quotas. This essentially overrules a 2004 judgment of a 5-judge constitution bench in case of E.V. Chinnaya versus State of Andhra Pradesh. So it's a key verdict that's been delivered in the Supreme Court. Sunil Prabhu and Vasudha Venugopal both joining us with the very latest on this. Sunil, to you first to understand what really the Supreme Court has said, and then we'll also go across to Vasudha to understand the ramifications of the verdict. Sunil, to you first.
Well, what the Supreme Court has done is open a minefield. So simply put, what has been done, the center and the states wanted to subclassify scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Today, at present, I'm breaking it down for a viewer, there is a reservation of approximately 22.5%, 15% for scheduled castes, 7.5% for scheduled tribes. What they are going to do now with this judgment of 6:1, with Justice Trivedi being the only lone dissenter who's dissented on the grounds of why, what is the precedence, why have you taken up this matter, what's the reasoning behind it. Having said that, there have been concurring 6 judgments who have very categorically said that there can be subclassification within scheduled castes. So there can be a subclass, but they've added a proviso. That can be done only on the basis of empirical data. It can't be 100%. It has to be based on empirical data to show that there has been inadequacy in terms of representation of that special subclass that you're talking about. So this will definitely help the center and the state to ensure that certain sections of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes who have got reservation for the last 75 years, those sections which haven't really benefited, they can target policies towards that, but that will have to be based on subclassification of the data. You'll have to basically have empirical data to do so. The other thing which has come up in the judgment, which is really something that wasn't really touched upon and doesn't really come within the domain of SC/STs, is the fact of the creamy layer. What has been decided, creamy layer was applicable in terms of backward classes and OBCs. When you give reservation, there would be a creamy layer. At present today, it is 8 lakhs of rupees annually that it can be. You have to be within that bracket to be able to get OBC reservation. What they have said in 3 concurring judgments is to say that you must bring in creamy layer for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. But that hasn't been touched. I don't think any government would like to touch that at this present juncture. But these are landmark decisions which have far-reaching implications, and whichever government will have to implement it will definitely have to walk a tightrope, because there will be certain sections within the scheduled caste who will feel upset that they are being left out in this entire exercise.
All right. Vasudha, if you could just explain to our viewers, it's a key judgment, like Sunil said. What are the ramifications of, this subclassification? It has to, of course, be done on the basis of empirical data. Practically, how is this going to work?
Rishika, this key judgment comes at a time when caste has made a vociferous comeback when it comes to politics of the country, because both Samajwadi Party, which has the second highest number of opposition MPs, and also the Congress Party, which has the highest number of opposition MPs, both of them have been talking about a caste census. But like Sunil Prabhu said, there's no really, these parties are also taking their time to look into the creamy layer aspect of it, something that has been it's a very touchy area. So it will be difficult for parties to look at that. But clearly, this opens a minefield. The treasury of data, remember last time it was the Rohini Commission that submitted subclassification of OBC groups, but the data findings are not known to state governments, or for that matter, people yet. And the central sources then had said that, this also gives the power to the center government to actually, decide which states actually, which groups, which communities need that kind of extra attention. The Samajwadi Party, with its focus on PDA, which is Pichda Dalit Alpsankyak, focusing on OBC, SEST, and also minority politics, and Rahul Gandhi time and again saying that caste census is something that his party, the opposition the India Alliance will bring in, and it will be, and then the parliament will be forced to sort of clear it. Also shows that the opposition is going to be very vocal about this particular aspect, because that is the only thing that that in some ways opposes the Hindutva plus welfare narrative of the BJP. So BJP, on the other hand, the treasury benches, on the other hand, have been talking in great detail about representation. In fact, only just yesterday we saw a privilege motion being moved by Charanjit Singh Channi, who was the former Chief Minister of Punjab and also Congress MP, and this motion was moved against the Prime Minister himself for tweeting, for posting some aspects, some parts of Anurag Thakur's speech, which allegedly, according to the Congress party, insulted the Rahul Gandhi for asking his caste. So clearly, caste remains a prominent aspect of not just politics of India, but also parliamentary proceedings, which is why I think this judgment today is going to basically get us a lot of reactions, and I think parties will also be very careful in sort of reacting to this, because the creamy layer aspect of it is not something that they've addressed in entirety here.
All right. So there are several, key issues that still need to be addressed in terms of, how this is actually going to play out on the ground. But having said that, like you said, Vasudha, it's a crucial verdict coming in at a time when, caste really is the buzzword as far as Indian politics is concerned. Vasudha and Sunil, thanks very much for joining us. I want to go across to Indra Sahni, senior lawyer of the Supreme Court, also with us on the broadcast. Thanks very much for joining us. Your first reaction to this verdict in the Supreme Court making subclassification of scheduled caste, scheduled tribes permissible. Could you explain, ma'am, for the benefit of our viewers, what does this essentially mean?
No, in fact, I feel that Supreme Court has rightly held that subclassification of SC, ST and OBC is permissible, because reservation for SC, ST and OBC was introduced since there was educationally and socio-economically backward classes as compared to general category. So hence, reservation was provided to overcome the handicap and provide them some semblance of equality of opportunity. So the same reasoning and logic applies equally to different categories of SC, STs and OBCs. Some categories are more backward within SC, ST and OBC. So this was the rationale for excluding creamy layer from reservation. So that is my view, that the judgment is totally correct.
All right, ma'am, if you can just, explain in terms of how, the entire debate on creamy layer is now going to play out. Do you think that there are still several key questions that need to be answered as far as the implementation of this verdict is concerned?
No, it has to be implemented. You see, there are categories in OBC, SC, ST, which are more backward. So they have to be identified, and then they should be given the benefit. Survey has to be done.